Oh god, I had to take a break and come back, and now I've got to try to remember which doors I didn't open yet. I think it's this one and that one, right? Yeah, I got to Biotis, that was my next stop. I hope I'm correct about that. Definitely spending a lot of time looking at these loading screens though, huh? I'm surprised how often some of these games I'm playing lately have to load, like this game, and Silence is another one where I'm like, these are really small areas, does it really need to load each one?
On it.
Well, this is crowded. Master, the Fatebinder is here. Zdenya, Master of the Forge. Zdenya turns and approaches you, her lithe body moving fluidly as she walks. She stops before you, and her stance solid and sure, but you see she is standing lightly on her feet, ready to move if necessary. She never takes her eyes off of you, but you know she is acutely aware of her surroundings. Fatebinder, may the fires of your forge never cool, she salutes you. I had hoped our paths would cross. Allow me this opportunity to thank you for your aid on the crossing of those years back. Dispatching the disfavored to cull what they could from the scourges was a blisteringly good idea. What can this servant of the flame do for you? Why have you come to Lethian's Crossing? What an odd question, Fatebinder. When you showed up in the forge, I thought you had been sent to check up on me. As my mission came directly from Tunon, shouldn't you already know? I was tasked with creating an artifact to protect the Forge-bound from the Bane. We have been delayed too often and lost too many of our own, so it was decreed that something must be done. I created the Mage Bane Helm to help the Bane, to keep the Bane at bay. Once the helm is in place, its magic will keep the Bane locked away inside the old walls. Why'd you create the helm? The Forge-bound are crafters of weapons and armor, Fatebinder, not statues and baubles. I make what I know, and it is also portable, and can be moved easily or used in battle should its protection be needed elsewhere in the future. For the time being, though, it will remain here, protecting the Forge-bound. We have a job to do, and cannot do it properly if we are constantly assaulted by outside forces. Why do the Forge-bound stay here if the Bane is such a threat? This forge is the shadow of the old walls in an area rich with iron. We have ample supply of raw material and the influence of ancient magics. It's an acceptable risk, and with the helm in place, the Bane will no longer be an issue. Why were you asked to create this item? Couldn't any Forge-bound here do it? All Forge-bound are masters of their craft, but each also has their special talents. The Mage Bane required someone whose skills were well above those who haven't been practicing as long as I have. The Tunon wanted a masterpiece, so we asked the master. How did you become a master of the Forge-bound? I was trained at a young age to be a warrior, but never felt any connection to that life, except when I was instructed how to repair my equipment. That fire spoke to me. No, the fire spoke to me. It sang when I stoked it, and told me where to swing my hammer to achieve the proper shape. I knew from the first moment that it would be my life. I apprenticed with the Forge-bound and focused exclusively on my craft. Soon my skills were superior to everyone else. I took risks with magics no one else dared to touch, and created some of the most powerful artifacts ever to come from the Forge-bound. Kairos recognized my skill and granted me the title of Master of the Forge. This is why Tunon asked me to personally create an artifact to protect Lethian's Crossing. I have a request to make of you. Unfortunately, I don't have time to entertain your requests right now, Fatebinder. I was just on my way to place the helmet. I need to get it set up as soon as possible. The settlers have created a spot on the 3rd tier. If you don't mind, join me and Eldian, and we can speak there. Bye, as they slowly exit the room. Oh, is he gonna talk to us? There he is, there's Eldian. The sunburnt man dips his head in greeting. An outsider never arrives alone. At least, that is what my mother always said. Seems she knew what she was talking about. He nods thoughtfully at his own words. I'm Eldian. Welcome to Lethian's Crossing. Well, if it isn't Tunon's Fatebinder. Welcome back to the Crossing. Haven't seen you around here since you put the disfavored in charge of everything. Eldian looks you over. Must say my memory seems to be failing. Something I never thought I'd say. He winks. The way people talk about how you came through and drove the Brotherhood out of town, you should be 10 feet tall and shoot lightning from your eyes. I seem to remember you being a little more human. Can't always tell the content of a pie from its crust, though, can you? A little more human, what does that mean exactly? Huh. For instance, who would give the town to disfavored and then walk in and kill them all? Not that I will miss the rules and schedules, but one has to wonder why you would switch sides so readily. It's not about switching sides. I worked for Tunon. There was a matter of who to give the place that makes iron to, and there we had an army that uses iron, so I gave the iron blacksmithing place to the iron army. It was totally logical. But then the iron army has betrayed the main has actually been betraying Kairos' will, so now because I work for Tunon and not for that army, I am now fighting them, because that's how it works. Allies is not the same thing as loyalty. It just means that there's people that are on your side and they can change. But enough of my prattling. You didn't come here for a history lesson or to get my opinion on your grandeur. He waves his hand dismissively at his previous comments. What can this old fool do for you? Can I ask you some questions about Lethian's Crossing? If you have questions about our settlement, I'm the one to ask. I've the dubious distinction of being the oldest living resident of Lethian's Crossing, so I've been here for a lot of its history. Eldian smiles. Eyes, hips, hair, and hearing might be failing, but my mind still remembers everything that happened here. What would you like to know about? I'll do my best not to go on too long about it. I know I have a problem keeping my conversations short. Let's see. What can you tell me about the spire in Lethian's Crossing? Eldian shakes his head. Sometimes I wonder why Lethian thought it was a good idea to settle here. We already had a Bane problem before the Forgebound set up here. Now that they're using the crossing as one of their main forges, the Bane issue is even worse. Since the Bane are drawn to magical energy, we have to be on constant alert for them escaping. The Scarlet Chorus did what they could against the Bane that escaped years ago, but even the sheer numbers of the Chorus aren't always enough. How did you seal the old door? I'm sorry, I mixed the two of them together. How did you seal the door? I have a keystone that can be used to open or seal the door. One of Kairos' soldiers found it when they're looking for a way to seal to doors to keep the Bane from escaping. The sealed door is only a temporary measure, though. It holds the Bane back for now, but it won't last much longer. That is why Tunon instructed Zdenya to create an artifact to protect Lethian's Crossing from the Bane. Will you let me into the old walls? I'm afraid that's a risk I'm not willing to take, Fatebinder. Once the doors are sealed, there is a good chance Bane will flood into Lethian's Crossing. Once unsealed. As much as I would love to help you, I can't endanger the town like that. So how about the Bronze Brotherhood? They've been here since the crossing was founded. Lethian herself hired them to protect the settlement when it was just getting started. A fledgling town in the shadow of the old walls. They did such a good job. She kept them on as our peacekeepers, and that's how things went. At least until you decided to oust them and put someone else in their place. Can't say I wouldn't have done the same, truth be told. Taking pay from two employers is always going to end badly if you can't make both of them happy. On top of that, it seems lately that Redaman is traveling a path no one can see, and I don't want to see what's at the end of it. Pretty sure I'm gonna need directions around here. Eldian laughs and put a hand on your shoulder. I completely understand. The crossing can be a bit intimidating the first time someone arrives, but it's not as complicated as it looks. The river is named Portuskor. I had the letters in the wrong order. Portuskor. Sure. And it flows down the middle of the settlement. The waterfalls pouring over the old walls are Sunrise and Moonrise. The west waterfall is Sunrise because of how the sun hits it in the morning, and Moonrise got its name due to how it glows during a full moon. The crossing itself is broken up into districts named after the waterfalls. The west side of the river is the Sunrise District, and the east side of the river is the Moonrise District. The different levels of Lethian's Crossing don't really have names, but most people refer to them as the tiers. My home is considered to be part of the ground tier. The forge is on the first tier, both in the Moonrise district. So now we have another thing being called tiers because, of course, the entire continent's also divided into tiers. Should I ask about the history? Why not? If you have more questions about the goings-on of the crossing, I'm the one to ask. I've been here for more of its history than anyone else, he smiles. What would you like to know? Who is Lethian? The biggest pain in the ass I ever knew? He turns bright red, blushing at his words, then lets out a huge guffaw. I suppose I shouldn't talk about my mother like that. She was a mediocre merchant, but a great leader. The war in the Northern Kingdoms cost her a very lucrative trade route up north, but she managed to earn trade stewardships from Kairos, and for a limited time she had monopoly on grain, salt, and tin here in the tiers. What did my grandmother say? Give a blind man time and a pile of rocks, and eventually he'll hit a target. He shrugs. Not to say she didn't deserve it, but I think luck played a bigger part in her success than actual talent. But Kairos gives and Kairos takes. The next year, Lethian was stripped of her trade rights. Suddenly she had a large staff, but no goods to trade and no means to pay anyone. But she was a stubborn one and knew if she just kept at it, eventually things would turn around for her. She figured the trade goods could come to us. The location was good enough. It's crazy how that would happen. So she decided to concentrate on making an existing local settlement into the center of commerce for the tiers, and by the claws of a beast, she did just that. I thought she was crazy choosing a town nestled up in the old walls, but apparently she knew what she was doing. It wasn't long after that it was renamed Lethian's Crossing. With their bridges over the old walls, this was the only place to go if you wanted to take weeks off your trip. Eventually, she hired the Bronze Brotherhood to act as local guards. We are big enough and had enough commerce to warrant the protection. Lethian was your mother? Of course. How did you think I became the Reeve of the Crossing? It's certainly not my story. It's not my storytelling or charm. I may be the oldest living resident here, but that's certainly not enough reason to make somebody a leader, though come to think of it, neither is just being the offspring of the former leader, he laughs. But like it or not, that's how things are. My mother was a wonderful woman. She might not have been the nicest person, and she might have been over fond of a dalliance here or there, or there, or there, but who isn't? His face sobers. May her rest be ever free of disturbance. How did you build the old wall's bridges? Lethian was the mastermind of that. She could tie a knot with one hand, one string. I remember watching her draw systems of ropes and knots in the sand, telling me that what they would do when built. I thought she was crazy. She says she got the idea from the bridges, from the seeing galleys pulled out of the water into the dock. Why'd you settle here? Necessity. The rope bridges let us cross the old walls. With them, it didn't matter what trade rights we had, we'd be at the crossroads to the northern tiers, an unbeatable location. The siege of Ardent and the Bastard City ended up helping us. All those folks heading to points east crossed through our little... What? Yeah. All those folks heading east crossed through our little settlement, and many of them decided to stake a claim with us. By then, Lethian discovered that there was iron in our rivers. She thought it'd make us rich, but it also made us a target. The old walls don't make passage through the area easy, and our bridges cut days to weeks off a trip. Lethian's Crossing is the best bet to get your shipment where it needs to go. Mix another load of iron ore into it, and we suddenly have a target painted on us. What is Kairos' interest in the crossing? Iron, plain and simple. Now that we have the forge bound here, toiling away with the ore they pull from the river, we're being squeezed for our resources. If you're after a drink, better to squeeze fruit from a stone. And it would seem many people find us to be very juicy indeed. There was a merchant who tried to peddle iron rocks as magical because they came from areas near the old walls. One of the people he sold to happened to be a disfavored courier. The courier then showed the rock to a forge-bound master who immediately recognized its potential for making superior weapons. It was brought to Kairos' attention, and soon after, soldiers and Forgebound came to Lethian's Crossing. They came with such force, our options were either to comply with what they wanted or die. Why does the Brotherhood want Lethian's Crossing? Land? Breeding stock? They've been here longer than I have, so maybe they consider it home too, but Kairos' purse masters are no longer paying them to fight, and if a mercenary is killing for free, something's suspect. In the end, I suppose it doesn't matter. Redeman will never let go. He feels he owns this town, and he aims to have it be his. So I get the feeling I'm going to have to deal with Redeman one day, sooner or later. I don't think that the way I passed him up is going to stand in the long term. Should I ask him about the two factions? I probably should, because I am investigating these two factions, so getting an outside perspective on them might glean in special information about, like, that's maybe, like, what if I got something incriminating about the Disfavored, for example, since they've been here all this time. So for the Disfavored, strict curfews, frequent searches, and no forgiveness for missed iron and grain quotas. That's the ill of it. But the sentries keep constant vigil and treat us with respect, politeness even. Most of them call me Elder and bow. If someone's going fishing in your pocket and taking your crops, may as well be kind about it. The Disfavored are committed to honor and dignity at all dealings. It's definitely not the situation I would have chosen, but things can always be worse. The water might be up to your knees, but it could also be up to your nose, is what my grandmother would tell me. What of the Earthshaker mages? We have passed through the crossing in recent times, all headed south to the Stone Sea. At least that's the word of it. The mages didn't stay for long. He gestures to the massive stone facade of the old walls. And I'm glad they kept on traveling. If some madman can cast a spell that cracked the foundation of the old walls, praise Kairos, it hasn't happened. What are the Forgebound? They toil away in their forge houses day in, night out. Kairos' forces keep them well guarded since they know how to work binding ore into weapons harder than stone or bronze. I've delivered food and kindling to the forge houses, but never had much contact with the artisan mages. How about the Scarlet Chorus? Can't say that I have a strong opinion one way or another, really. They didn't seem to care much about leaving the settlement behind, and once the decision was made to let the Disfavored have control, they left, and I haven't seen much of them since. I'll be on my way. Of course. I must go to the spire and make sure everything is ready. I'll meet you there when Zdenya is ready to place the artifact. Alright. Let's see if there's people to meet in this room, because it is packed with characters. Although it might just be generic Forgebound working away, because this is, of course, an important location for that. No, we have two named characters here. So we need to, we need to look for the placement of the helm. We'll get to that in a moment. So these are Forgebound apprentices. Ooh, some locked up things. These torn iron weapons look as if they've been recently repaired and are being readied to be shipped back out. Let's take a look. Forgebound hammer. It's got to be way weaker, right? Oh no. Is it the exact same quality as the item that I just bought for him? It might be. Plans. Headhunter. These plans detail how to forge the mythical blade known as Headhunter. This item can be created with access to a Spire Forge upgrade and proper materials. Didn't we get the hilt for that? I think we found the hilt for the same weapon, right? New forge plan available! Which I can access that from here, actually. Let's see. Power 400. Yeah, you can see the scrolls and iron goods, everything right here. So how do the upgrades work exactly? I just know that I can buy people, basically. Which is not quite the same thing. I have the one trainer basically right now. Huh. Maybe the quest actually brings some of that up? Maybe not. None of these are about the Spire thing? Nope. It's just mentioning that we have a new recipe available. We haven't gotten a new missive, have we? In a long time, actually. Yeah, there's no indication in the actual interface how Spire upgrades work exactly. That must just be something that comes up in a different context. Topaz. Staple root. Cool. This armor is newly made by the Forge Bound. It is still warm to the touch. It's hot. Don't touch it. So we have Olantis, Master of Casting, and Lohara, Master of Tempering, and then a bunch of generics. If you need anything, speak to Lohara. She's the one in charge. Here's Olantis. Olantis surveys the room with an air of superiority. He addresses you without making eye contact. Is there something you want? Is there a problem? His eyes carefully watch Lohara as he answers you. Yes, but these are forge-bound matters, nothing that concerns the High Court of Tunon, I can assure you. So what do you do here? I keep things running smoothly, upkeep mostly. He smiles coyly. I am also second in command to Lohara, so in case anything ever happens to her, I'm here to take charge. A muscular woman stands upright from her forge and turns to look at you. The light of the fire playing across her face, making her eyes dance dangerously. A toothy smile breaks across her mouth, the only bright spot in her soot-stained face. Do you kill with your left hand or your right? She rubs blackened palms together, eyeing you expectantly. Normally I can tell at a glance, but you're a little harder to read. Is that how they say hello in your hometown? Do you also answer questions with questions? She flashes more pearly teeth and chuckles softly to herself. It's a simple question, child. When you swing a tool to end your another life, which hand do you use? The right. Noted. She clears her throat and wipes her blackened hands on the canvas of her smock. I am Lohara, Master of Tempering, the Forge Master of Lethian's Crossing. My tasks exceed the hours left in the day, but there is no harm in pausing my work if it means speaking with a Fatebinder. How may I be of assistance? Are you well? You look weary. Ecstatic. Her voice is matter-of-fact, and a smile creeps in. The ritual of the forge links heart to hammer. My blood beats only when I strike my ingot. My forge runs too hot if my breath becomes too hurried. The bond is both fatiguing and exhilarating. Couldn't that kill you? I should hope so, she laughs, her face blushing with color of molten metal. Better than being defiled and killed by brigands, poisoned by grain rot, or slain by childbirth. Would not a soldier wish to die in battle? Is that how you excel at your craft? Well, that in practice, she scowls. But yes, the rituals link the essences of the materials and the body to the tools. My hands become a joint to the hammer, the true end of my arm. I feel the heat of the forge as if it were the weather of the room. Under such circumstances, true focus can emerge. So how may I be of assistance? Why'd you want to know if I will kill with my right hand or left? The gauntlet is the hardest part of the panoply, and the most rewarding to work. So many scales and so many different sizes. And then there's the rivets. She slides her thumb and fingers together, shedding flecks of soot and iron dust. I imagine you see a lot of battle in your line of work. One gauntlet is invariably going to wear out before the other. My mind is always thinking on what will need repairs first. It's as simple as that. So she would actually have a unique perspective on the Forge Bound, wouldn't she? Let's ask about that. For centuries, my guild has sought the union of magical and manual perfection. While others concern themselves with the arcane for the sake of inordinate power, we study it to overcome the traditional limits of our arts and crafts. The Forge is a dominant concern of study. The Forge is our dominant concentration of study. But not all forge-bound work metal. Some are weavers, carpenters, and one of our odder members fancies himself a chief. The wise and mighty Kairos has been kind to our guild. He offered to put our weapons and armor in the hands of those who would change the world. A broad smile overcomes her face. And he has been true to his word. Forge-bound iron has trampled the tears, and all that oppose Kairos' forces rest in their heads on forge-bound spears. So why make weapons if you could kill your foes with magic? Why walk if you could pay porters to carry you? She shakes her head with a huff. We have ways to protect ourselves from those who would abuse us, but we study the arcane for purposes of building, not destroying. We leave that to others. They can take our implements and use them to sow chaos if they so choose. I would rather take chaos and force order on it. How exactly does your magic help you make things? Our most important rituals bind the crafter, tools, and materials into one entity? She cracks a nervous smile. Close enough. In my own work, the forge bind draws the whole of my senses into the edge of the blade I'm tempering. I can see the tiniest notch or touch my finger to the blade and feel the razor's sharpness without breaking my skin. Such perfect execution of art has its costs, of course. My heart and lungs become linked to flame and hammer. A dropped hammer would lead to a stopped heart. Most of my memories die in the throes of their work, killed by a distraction or simple error. Most of our members die in the throes of their work, killed by a distraction or a simple error. She blushes. We lose a lot of apprentices. That's concerning. I'm surprised they even let people in this room then, if at any moment I might, distract people and kill them, basically. What can you tell me about the Forge-bound Master? Zdenya is the best leader I have had the pleasure of working under. She guides the Forge-bound with a steady yet stern hand, guaranteeing all our work is of the utmost quality and peerless in every regard. I am Zdenya's second, which is why I am the Forge Master of Lethian's Crossing. She points at Euladis. He is my second. Should anything happen to me, I haven't worked with him so long, so I don't know much about him or the true long-lasting quality of his work, but he was appointed by Zdenya, so he must be good at what he does. Can you make me something magical? No. She smiles and shakes her head, but almost everyone asks. Relics of arcane power must grow into themselves. They are never made from nothing. She points her finger at the air and smiles. But what I can do is use my magic to swing my hammer with perfect precision, or work a cantrip to handle molten metal with my bare hands. We can build artifacts of exceeding quality and refinement, but they must be used in great deeds to grow into relics of power, and that is why we seek to put the works of our forges into the hands of the greats. True legends require the alliance of sword maker and sword master. That's interesting. So they're trying to make artifacts of power, and that's why they're aligning themselves with the great armies that'll do crazy acts, because their weapons will then become powerful, and they'll be accomplishing what they see as their purpose, or something, at least. So can you make something for me? Not necessarily that type of thing. Can? She lifts an eyebrow. Most certainly. Well, Kairos invented queues for a reason. She lets slip a laugh. I have every Iron Walker and every Scarlet Chorus ringleader sending me bribes and flattery in hopes that I'll work off schedule and make them something this or one of a kind that. Her mouth moves as if to speak and then falls silent, folding her arms. Let's see. I did not realize the request was so thoughtless. My apologies. I get unreasonable demands every day, but it's not the volume, it's the purpose. She lowers her voice to a near whisper and steps closer to you. I do not resent that Kairos' demands reduce our work to mere quotas. It should be allowed to... I do resent that Kairos demands reduce our work to mere quotas. I should be allowed to customize my work for every soldier. Only apprentices have anything to learn from making the same size helmet again and again. Forget I asked. That I will. I must be going. That was a neat little introduction then. So we learned about Lethian's Crossing, more about Lethian's Crossing at least than we knew. It was a little weird that I had to ask about that as the governor. You'd almost expect a bunch of green text entries or like a weird codex thing to pop up that gets me caught up on stuff that my character technically already knows, but we asked about it because that was how you learn information in this game. And we got to learn about Forgebound and how bizarre they are. We got one more building on this side. Is that over there that must be the sealed door that leads to where the Bane are, right? So this door opens. Back in we go.
Found something.
We found something immediately, huh? Are these generics? Settler, settler, but we found secret. Give me your secrets. The Raven Showl of Rogues. Ooh, +10 subterfuge. That's neat. I might as well throw that on my main character since he's clearly starting to specialize in that. It wasn't intended, but it's happened. It came to my attention that picking the convict, or whatever it was called, prisoner origin affected my subterfuge. Didn't really think about that. I was just picking a backstory that I found amusing or interesting, and generally, just because you were somebody who was arrested for something and then pardoned, it doesn't really mean that you're somehow a master thief or something. That's kind of a false connection. But that's the reason why my character has a surprising bonus for that stat. So I guess you can min-max your origins, of course, to affect different stats. But I did not have interest in doing that. I just wanted to pick this. I was just picking the story I liked. The back wall of this home has long since crumbled away, revealing the old walls behind it. Oh wow. Their house just opens up to a wall. Okay then. So let's take a look here. Is this the exact weapon I got a moment ago? Why do they look different? This one's red and that one's blue. But is it different in any way? Fine. 10 to 22 crush. 3.11 DPS versus parry, 1 recovery, 4 armor protection. What? They look different, but there's no apparent stat difference between them. This game's weird. the equipment in this game is really strange to me. I get a bunch of different gloves that are all the same gloves, but they have different icons and names. And this one has the same stats, the same name, but a different icon, which seems to suggest that they would be special in some way, as if, like, say, one's like, ice elemental or fire elemental, or maybe affects resistances differently or something, but nothing anywhere differs between the two, which is strange. So you're currently using reduced recovery time when you have wounds, and bonus quickness. This guy doesn't get wounds very often, so maybe I'll take that one off and put this one on. Meanwhile, you have what? Parry, immunity to poison. I'll take the poison one off. Let's give you some bonus speed when you have wounds, since you seem to accumulate them. I'll go for the poison immunity on our caster, perhaps. Specifically our defensive caster. Keep them healthy. Alright, we'll head right back out and keep exploring this town.